Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of Tea at the Temple. And this month we are so excited, aren't we, to bring forward the incredible Em Mulholland.
She is just an immense power. She is a shamanic healer. She is a crystal whisperer. She is an earth guardian. She has got some juicy advice for all of you.
Yeah, it's been an absolute honour to have this conversation with Em. So grab yourself a cuppa and join us for Tea at the Temple. Well, welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of Tea at the Temple. This month, we are joined by the incredible Mulholland, dear friend, shamanic healer, crystal whisperer, and incredible earth guardian. It is such an honour, Em, to have you with us. So thank you so much for joining us for Tea at the Temple.
Thank you, ladies. It's an absolute pleasure and an honour to be here. Exciting.
It's so exciting, and we just love these conversations. It's so nice just to really allow other people to share their voice, and we just learn so much in this space as well, don't we, Rach?
And that's our intention. It is, as we come into soulful conversation, we enable others then to find their truth through our truths. And I think we find that many of us, we are the keys, aren't we, to unlocking something within another. And that is the beauty of the sacred flower of life, how we're all interlinked, how we're all connected, and how we're all part of the sacred weave, that tapestry of life. It's just beautiful. So we'd love to start off with asking you, what brought you to this path?
Well, there's a question. I think for me, it stretches back to, I was raised in quite a traditional Irish Catholic family. So my grandmother, my late grandmother, was a very devoutly religious lady. And so she'd take me to church with her regularly when I stayed with her in school holidays. And so I was always surrounded by the presence of the divine within that structured religious framework. I was always intrigued by Mary and the angels, but didn't really, think any more deeply upon it, as a young child. It was only sort of as I got to my teens, and I'm sure you might relate to this, started to get interested in tarot cards and crystals and kind of smuggling them in and kind of hiding them away so to keep them private and away from the eyes of my parents, because that just wasn't the done thing, really. When I was growing up in my family, it was seen as a little bit weird and a bit woo-woo. And then I went off to university and kind of my mind was diverted elsewhere. And then I would say it was sort of around mid-20s when I lost my grandmother. Unfortunately, she became quite seriously ill in a short space of time and she left. And that really cracked something open for me, in that I was angry. I was angry with the traditional concept of God as I then knew him or it to be, how this could happen to somebody who devoted her whole life to, such a devout path. And I began to question. So that anger, I would say, lasted for a few more years, and there was quite a lot of turbulence, I would say, inside of me. And then things shifted again after I had my son. And I went through postnatal depression. I felt quite isolated. And I decided to begin my Instagram account in order to sort of reach out really to other people with similar interests to me. I began to reconnect with the crystals again. And that was another cracking open, I think, that particular phase in my life. So we're talking about, so my son is 6 now. So yeah, only a few years ago, but things have changed immeasurably for me since that point. And it's been a real journey to where I am today. My life doesn't look the same in so many ways, and that's as a result of this path that I've been placed upon.
Wow. I love hearing how people's paths begin and how it starts, and so much of it comes from pain, doesn't it, as well? And
absolutely,
I really, that was one of my catalysts, actually. I really resonate there with postnatal anxiety for me. That was like my sort of second awakening point, so to speak. It's such a catalyst, and it was for me, and it sunk me deep into depths that brought in that darkness you never thought you'd be able to, the light would be able to reach you. It's inspiring, obviously, to hear your journey and how that has brought you to this point. And so you say that obviously as you, from there, it was more like the crystals that spoke to you first, obviously, after in your postnatal depression. So how has that evolved? How did you build that relationship with the crystal spirits, and how is that working now through your life? Because the way that you channel crystals is so beautiful, and
thank you.
it's really powerful, and it's lovely to see what has been birthed through such darkness. So how does that weave into your everyday now?
So I would say that it began when, as I say, I just felt very drawn back to the crystals, the interest that had been sparked in me as a teenager and that I'd put to one side. I'd find that obviously they're very, a lot of them are very beautiful to the eye, but others appear to be more ordinary, and you wouldn't give them a second glance, but they're all the stone people. They're all incredible, and I've come to learn that they each have their own personalities. And I'm not going to lie, I thought I was a bit bonkers when I'd sit there with a crystal and then words would just appear in my head, and I'd think, what's going on here? So I grew more curious, and I began to sit with the stones that I feel I was nudged to at any given day or time. And I'd sit there in the evening, just in front of the TV sometimes, and I'd just be surrounded by rocks. I still do it now. And my husband's just there going, okay, right, she's getting up now to the crystal cabinet to get some more, and back and forth, and finally settle down. And I'll have one, on my room maybe, and I'll have one on the table next to me. And it's just that they've just got such personality, and obviously they're from the land. I mean, they're treasures from the land. They're gifts to us, and I genuinely revere them and see them as part of my family. We were talking beforehand about an impending house move that we've got coming up, and I thought, right, the removal men are not packing up my crystals. They're coming in the car with the family, the cats, my drum, my rattle, and the crystals. I said to my husband there, that's all priority. So they are very precious to me. And it's funny, I find nowadays that sometimes they're very quiet, and I won't feel any of them nudging me. They'll just sort of be sat there holding space quietly and beautifully in my home. But when they want to talk to me, I will know about it, and I will not be left alone, because it will keep coming into my head. It will just keep appearing to me, the crystal in my mind's eye, until I go and physically get it and have a chat with it. So yeah, very grateful to have this connection with them.
Oh, I love that.
It's super beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think what's truly amazing about these beautiful stone people, crystal allies, crystal elders, whatever you want to call them, they hold the story of the planet, the story of the cosmos.
Yes.
They're the record keepers, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Tell us a bit more about the record keeping skills of these crystals, because I just find it so fascinating what wisdom is transmitted through them.
So some of them are quite philosophical, and they'll speak of, ways in which we can work with turbulence that's going on in the world at the moment. And I think everybody has been through so much turbulence in recent years, and it's not showing any sign of letting up. But I find that the wisdom that can come through it's brought through to bring comfort, not just to me, but to other people. And when I share, it's for the benefit of others. And more often than not, somebody will reach out and say, thank you, I needed to hear that today. But it's also wisdom from the stars as well. From the cosmos, you might get a star being coming through with a message for humanity, just greater wisdom that isn't necessarily accessible to our conscious minds. It seems to kind of filter through, and I've learned that I have to move the conscious mind to one side, almost, is probably the best way of describing it, because I do have a foot in both worlds. I realise that now, and I embrace it wholeheartedly. So when the logic is respectfully asked to sort of step aside, I know it's there to keep me safe. It's amazing what will be shared in those quieter moments. And it can be anything. As I said, it can be a message from Mother Earth, it can be from a star being, it can be just, it's more often than not, it's comfort. That's the best way I can describe it, really. Just something that will keep you going if you're having a difficult day or grappling with a difficult problem. That's probably the best way I can describe it, really, in terms of the records that they hold, if that makes any sense.
It really does.
It completely does. And I think it's really inspirational for others to listen to, you know, the stories of others and their relationships with these beautiful, because they're divine beings, but there's obviously divinity in its many forms. What is your relationship with other expressions of the divine?
I was thinking about this before our call, and I thought, gosh, you know, how do you answer that question? I thought there's so much to it, isn't there? But it, for me, I was sat at my desk earlier, and I looked out of the window and I saw a robin on the tree. And to me, that in itself is an expression of the divine. It's everywhere. And sometimes we forget to look for it. Sometimes we do get caught up in our own heads. And I am the world's worst for it. I admit that. I can go up there and I'm off, and I have to work really hard to come back into my body and just take a breath. So it's in those moments that the divine it catches my attention in the form of a beautiful bird sat looking in at the window through the window at me, or it's in picking up a beautiful crystal and admiring a rainbow inside it. It's a walk in the woods and just looking at the carpet of leaves now that we're in autumn. It's just everywhere. I think it's everywhere is probably my truthful answer to that question.
And that's a really beautiful reminder to us all, isn't it, that the divine is everywhere. I'm the same with you, Em, as well. Like, for me, it's buzzards, isn't it? Like, everywhere I go, as soon as I hear that call, it's like I get shivers down my spine. It's just all those beautiful magical moments in nature. We've been on a wonderful walk this morning, haven't we? And just everything about that cold, crisp autumnal morning, rustling of leaves and the beautiful blue sky, all of it is just right in front of us, and it's just opening our eyes and just nudging ourselves to remember that it's everywhere. It's that's a reminder that we can all take away with us.
It's coming into that gratitude, isn't it? It's coming into those moments. And for us, our spiritual practice would very much look like connecting with the land. What does yours look like?
Similarly, I think we definitely share a kinship with that connection with the land. All of us do, and we feel very drawn to work with Mother Earth and appreciate everything that she does for us. And to be honest, I think it's only in recent years that I found that appreciation. You know, so it's, I think, through, I've gone off track a little bit there. So through connecting with the land, the trees, as you both know, I have a really special place in my heart for the trees. Just sitting, as I say, with a stone, sitting by the water, just even pulling an oracle card. They're all ways of connecting with the divine. It's all about taking that quiet time that, again, I'm guilty of not doing this probably enough lately, and I'm being reminded of the need to take that quiet time in order to listen to the divine that's within each of us as well, that the whisper, that quiet voice, that feeling in the gut, the soul voice. Definitely.
I mean,
gives me shivers.
It does. I mean, honestly, I feel so like, just there's a warmth as well. It's just beautiful. It's nurturing. That's the energy, isn't it? It's so nurturing. And one of the things that you just said there, and was your connection to the trees. And obviously, one of the incredible offerings that we have both received numerous times, it's just beautiful and highly recommend them, is Celtic Reiki, and especially also your shamanic healing. But through the Celtic Reiki, obviously you bring the tree elders in and the Ogham, and it's a beautiful offering.
Thank you.
Share more on that, Em.
Yeah, so it's, for me, it's the main thing, obviously, you learn when you learn about modalities, but you take the parts that resonate with you most and you incorporate that into your practice, don't you, and make it your own. So for me, the Celtic Reiki energy, it comes up through the land, through the root, as opposed to down the way. But there's nothing wrong with it coming the other way. It's just, that's how it feels to me. It's also obviously the water, the other elements are also incorporated into it, but the trees are obviously a very strong part of this beautiful modality. And I just find that when I work with the energy, it's so grounding, and it's like a quiet peace. That's the best way I can describe it when I'm working with a client in the Celtic Reiki sessions. It's as though, you know, quite often people will come when they're feeling quite frazzled and they just want to be held. And I think that this is a really beautiful modality to just plug somebody back in to the earth, to the, you know, to source, whatever you want to call it. It just roots you back in, and it calms and soothes the whole system. I don't know if you would both kind of express your experiences of receiving it in that way, but that's how it feels to me as a practitioner. Just really gentle but powerful.
Yeah, you feel really deeply held, and like you say, just really at peace. There's really deeply healing practices, and the messages that come forward, well, that you bring is, I've always found them really profound. The sessions that I've had with you, they've been really beautiful.
Yeah, I've experienced them coming up in the same way, because obviously you've got your tree network underneath your feet, and I feel that rising, and almost like the roots and the branches becoming part of your crystalline body and just bringing you back. Because for me, and the reason why Celtic Reiki was so wonderfully healing for me was because I would like be off in the stars, off in the cosmos, and I would get really, really frazzled. And like everybody, you need your time every month, and it was just the perfect modality to bring me back, grounding that celestial into the earth, and allow me just to reset. And I think that for me was a way that I would connect and deepen my connection to myself. You know, that remembrance that I am a body as well as a soul, because I find that very difficult to initially I found that very difficult to distinguish between. The body didn't seem important to me. It was where I would journey to, and modalities like Celtic Reiki are like a godsend for the celestial beings, starseeds.
They really are, and I think I was drawn to it for my own benefit as well as to share it with other people, very much so, because as we were saying, you know, the tendency to go off and be amongst the stars and kind of journey elsewhere, and it is so important, isn't it, to come back to the body, because we're whole, aren't we? We can't be just the soul, or just the mind, or just the body. We're all, that's why I suppose they call it a type of holistic therapy, because it's the whole person, and it's bringing those parts back together in such a gentle and cohesive way. I think that's what Celtic Reiki does for me anyway, and for those who experience it. And the trees sometimes, you know, they want to speak through in tree language. I think you've both experienced that in your sessions with me. And again, I'm there thinking, something wants to come out, I'll record it and I'll send it. And the conscious brain is going, oh, just let it come. And just, it's so beautiful in sessions as well, where we're taken into sacred groves, which I know is obviously close to both of your hearts. Sometimes we're taken into the belly of a cavernous yew, and it's just incredible. You never know what's going to happen, but it's always magical, and it's always what the person needs at that particular point in time, it seems. So it's really special and humbling to be able to help in that way.
Oh, we love a magical tour, don't we?
Don't we just?
I had to excuse the Big Bang a minute ago, because I think a pigeon has just taken himself out on the window.
Oh no,
flying in. It's absolutely fine, but I just saw like a yeah, a flirting of feathers. So if there was a big bang in the background, that is just a pigeon making his presence known.
And grounding, said Starseed, back. So talk to us about, obviously, the other modalities that you bring forth, because Celtic Reiki is absolutely beautiful, but you're also a shamanic practitioner. So how does that present through you?
So it has a very special place in my heart, and my journey with the shamanic side of life it was just after I was married. So 9 years ago, I was on my honeymoon and I was reading a book by a lady called Anna Hunt, and the book's called The Shaman in Stilettos, and I was really fascinated by it. And as it transpired, she was holding a retreat a couple of weeks later in Spain for a few days. And at that particular moment in time, I was in between finishing one job just before I got married and starting another job. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go. So off I went on this retreat 9 years ago. As you do, you know, as a newlywed, just say to your husband, right, I'm off now. I'm going on this retreat. I'm being called. By that point, he just didn't bat an eyelid because he knew me well enough. And I felt something very powerful. That was probably the first time. I think we were all sat on the land and we were holding hands, and I felt something from the land. And I thought, oh, this is really powerful. Went home, and from time to time, I'd have a look at various practitioner trainings, but found that a lot of them were sort of, you know, in the south, and I don't drive. So I thought, logistically, I don't think it's going to be feasible for me to kind of, you know, go down to Dorset once a month or something like that. So it was always there at the back of my mind. And then I found a teacher who lives about half an hour away from me. And this was coming up, when was it now? It was just before lockdown. So I started my training in the January. I've lost track of time with the years. Was that 2020, I think?
Yeah.
In the January of 2020. And then come the, I think was it the March of that year, I'd left my job as a practicing solicitor, as you do after training for something and working in one particular profession for your whole life. But it was quite clear that this is, looking back, now I'd set the intention, stepped onto that path, that I'd made my feelings clear, that I was willing to change my life, I suppose. And then I completed my practitioner training on the day, Lionsgate, 8th of August last year. I was initiated, but also I'm currently training in the Irish shamanic path as well. I'm off to County Kerry on retreat in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about, because my family are all, my bloodline on both sides is Irish, but I've not been to that particular part of Ireland. So for me, the shamanic side of things, it's just been incredible. Every time I journey, whether that's for myself or for somebody else, the wisdom that you tap into, and it's just, I feel quite emotional talking about it, because it is just everything to me. It is just so beautiful to be able to go and speak with the ancestors and converse with animals, and, you know, retrieve information, working with the deities on the wheel. And I just love it. I think it's probably coming through in how I'm talking about it. I just love the shamanic work so much. And whilst it has been, this year I've found, I mean, you both know I've been very quiet on social media. I've had a lot going on in, you know, my domestic situation. So I've stepped back a little bit, and I'm fine with it, because it is not always going to be this way. It's just a period of transition for me. But interestingly, I feel that side of me and my practices has grown more powerful in that incubation period, and people are still finding me. So people come to me when they need me. So I might have nobody for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden 3 people will come via word of mouth. And it's just fascinating to see it evolve in that way. So although I have been quieter, this is just another transition, and it is going to be, you know, I am going to be putting myself out there a bit more and making my offerings more visible for those who feel called, because it's just, I think it can be life-changing. And I don't think that's me at all. I'm not the sort of practitioner who thinks that I'm doing anything per se. I'm stood beside you. I always say I'm stood beside you. I'm holding your hand. I'm supporting you. You know, you're the one who's committed to change, and you have to be willing to do the work as well. You know, I'm just somebody who helps you with that. I'm not a guru or anything. I would never, you know, I'm still learning myself. I'm human. I have my flaws. I have my bad days, my good days, and I'm always very open about that as well. So I just think the shamanic work is just, it's beautiful. It's been, as I say, life-changing for me, and I know it's helped others as well. And yeah, it's incredible. Got a bit carried away there.
I have not at all. I mean, I had the honour of receiving one of your shamanic healing, distance healings, and I mean, I said to you, it was so deep. It brought so much up. It was really profoundly healing, and it stunned me. I'm always, you know, I love distance healing and how it works, and I couldn't. For me, that blew my mind how deep it went. Even though it was obviously distance healing, it was incredible. And I highly recommend everybody to check out Em's offerings. As usual, we'll have all the details below, but that was deep, and I loved it. But it does so much up. It's an incredible modality. And again, ancestral working is something that we both have done more of than myself. I'm just starting to sort of take those steps now into that realm, but it's very, like you say, it's a privilege. It's such an honor to be able to do that work with them. It opens up so much.
It gives them a voice, doesn't it? It gives your ancestors a voice, and it enables you as part of their blood lineage to heal things that maybe they might not have been able to while they walked this earth. And I think it is such an honor to be able to do that, but it goes so deep. It's so complex, the weave of the ancestral stories. And I think there is so much wisdom and so much healing and so much of all the juicy stuff, the stories of how they have lived, the songs that want to flow through you, the music that they want you to play. And I mean, personally, I never imagined that I would sing or play a drum. But you've got, she's got me doing it.
Debut.
I did. I made my debut. She's got me doing it all. But talk to me about how the instruments come into like the healing process.
Oh, so I mean, I work with the drum and I work with the rattle. So you can use both of those to journey. So what I like to do when I'm journeying is I've recorded myself drumming for 20 minutes and I've recorded myself rattling for 20 minutes. So what I tend to do is, if I want to do a lower world journey to go and speak with my ancestral teacher, I will tend to be drawn towards the drum. If it's middle world, upper world work, then I tend to the rattle. And that's kind of the way it's been sort of taught to me through my Irish shamanic path as well, and that seems to work well. But what I do really like to do, and as you both know, my work is distance and energy work, and I will set up my space in my home, my sacred space, with my altar in the corner, and I'll imagine it as if you were there in front of me, lying there, and I'll have my drum and I'll be drumming as if I'm drumming over you. I'd have the rattle, using that on particular areas of the body that I'm drawn to, and I'll use it to seal the energy as well, the rattle. I'll use it to cleanse. It's just, yeah, and the drum as well is just, sometimes I just come upstairs, I've got this whopping great, it's quite a masculine drum, it's a stag drum with an oak hoop and a merlinite crystal in it. And he is loud, but he is gorgeous. And sometimes I just think, I just need to drum. I need to shift something because I'm feeling agitated, or the house feels a bit icky, and I'll just get the drum and I'll just freestyle with the drum, and it really shifts the energy. And I go downstairs and my husband would sort of be sat there on the PlayStation and going, were you drumming? Yeah. And my little boy Thomas is like, Mummy, can I have your drum? And I'm like, I'll get you your own. I have to keep it sacred. Bless him, because it would be bam, bam, boom, when it's broken. But yeah, I just think that they're just such powerful and beautiful objects, and yeah, they're amazing how they can shift the energy. And sometimes I like to drum as well, just in gratitude to Mother Earth. I just think she needs some tenderness. She needs I don't know, I just get the nudge like I do with the crystals when I need to do it. I'm not a person who has set sort of rituals every single day, and sometimes I wish that I did, but I've learned that that's just not how I am. It can shift and change, so I go with the intuitive nudges and do things like that when I feel the call.
Oh, I love that. And do you know, just your face when you talk about the drum is just, and it makes me smile because that's how we feel, don't we? When there's just something about the resonance of that instrument, and you almost get sucked into the drum as soon as you start playing. You can just lose track of time, and it's just incredible, and it shifts so quickly. Like, that's what I love about it. And as well, whatever you feel in anything, it just cuts through, excuse my language, but through all the crap, and it just gets in there and gets it out, and I love it. And it just, the rhythm, that pulsation, it's like a real deep heartbeat in your being,
isn't it?
And I just love it.
So I mean, that's like one really wonderful way to like deepen your connection to the divine. But if you could give some other bits of advice to people who are listening about how for them to deepen their connection, what would they be?
The things that come to mind with that question, it's twofold really. And again, it's medicine that I often have to remember to take myself. Isn't it always the way? We're good at giving advice and then not so good at necessarily taking it. But first of all, I think it's just allowing time for that, to listen to your instincts and your intuition. To me, that is a way of connecting with the divine. It's that, you know, how does that look for you? Is it sitting in silence for 30 minutes? That's not for everybody, and I find that hard to do. Is it even just, you know, going for a walk to the woods by yourself with your phone on airplane mode and just letting, you know, allowing what wants to come through? Just, yeah, the walking and the being in nature seems very important for me to connect with the divine. So I would highly, I mean, I'm sure you'd both agree with me, just being outside is, I think, a potent way of connecting, and just really just noticing. We're all rushing here and there to get from A to B, and for somebody like myself who works from home, I forget sometimes the beauty in the outside world. So now what I try to do is I might take the long walk back from the school run where there's more trees and there's more green, and just pause and think, come on, Emma, just slow down. You know, nothing's going to happen if you log into work 5 minutes later than you normally do. Just notice what's the weather doing today? How does the energy feel? Is there anything that wants to come through you? Is there anything, you know, is there somebody that's popping into your mind that, you know, you feel that you should reach out to? To me, that's all connecting with the divine, in you know, in my opinion. I really think it is. So just whatever works for you to bring you back into yourself and to listen to that quiet voice within. And again, I have a very noisy mind, so sometimes that little quiet voice down is sort of, you know, I'm putting my hands on my womb as I say this, that quiet voice can get overlooked, but it's there and it's not going anywhere. All you need is to connect, just even 5 minutes in the bathroom. If you're rushing around and your family is driving you mad and you can't get any peace, just sort of sitting on the edge of the bath thinking, and then something, a divinity. Yeah, that's connecting with the divine. It doesn't have to be fancy bells and whistles. I really don't think it does, because it's in you, it's in all of us.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that. So we always ask all of our guests this final question, don't we, Helen?
We do. So if you could give one piece of advice to your awakening self, what would it be?
One piece of advice, my awakening self: trust, just really start to embody and believe the power that is within you and your experiences, and that power doesn't go anywhere, even when life feels bumpy, even when it feels hard. And by gosh, many of us are going through it this year, but that power isn't going anywhere. Don't give it away. Withdraw when you need to, and don't feel bad about it. Don't worry about it. You know, that inner fire isn't going anywhere. Do what you need to do to tend it, and it will serve you well.
Oh, breathe that in.
Absolutely.
Where that came from.
Oh, that is just a juicy piece of advice. It has been such an honour to speak to you today, and to all of our listeners and viewers. Again, all of Em's details will be below in the description. Please check out all that Em shares. She is the most incredible healer and space holder. It is such an honour to have you join us for Tea at the Temple. It's just been a delicious conversation, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Honouring you, dear soul.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much. Can I come back next year?
Yes, you can.
For another cup of tea.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful. Deepest blessings.